Let's go into, so obviously the season is starting, and who else would I invite to predict each division other than Jonathan Polasek? We have the Pagoda prediction right in front of us, just for kind of a reference. So we're gonna go through each division. Just gonna pick probably the one or two teams, maybe three, depending on how deep it is, and see their projected wins and who they predict was gonna win, and see our over-unders, or who's, if we agree or not. So let's start with, obviously, the best division, because the Yankees are in there.
Yeah, you're wrong. Absolutely wrong.
The American League East. The Yankees, by the Pagoda projections, are predicted to win 97 games. And I think that's a bit too high. But 7 games above the Boston Red Sox, which I think they won 108 last year, and they projected them to win 90 games next year. And then obviously the Tampa Bay Rays were on the outside looking in at 85 wins. I still think the Yankees will win this division, even though it's going to be a tough battle between the Red Sox, between the Yankees and the Red Sox. But I don't see a 7-game difference between the two teams.
Yeah, I think that's a little too much. I don't think that they're giving the Red Sox enough credit. I mean, they are the reigning world champions.
Yeah.
They won 108 games last year, which I think was a Red Sox record.
Right.
And they've still got that guy out in right field, Mookie Betts, and Chris Sale on the bump, and who could forget J.D. Martinez?
Right, and David Price is still there, I think.
They've got a lot of depth, and so I think that they're selling Boston just a little bit short. I think that New York is going to win the division as well. Don't get me wrong. I still think New York is going to win. Yeah. I think they have their rotation. If Severino can come back around after that disappointing second half of last season, that lineup is just absolutely terrifying to go up and face, with Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, and then Gary Sanchez if he can bounce back as well.
Right.
He struggled a little bit last year, but just the threat of those three should worry any team and should automatically make you a World Series contender. Yeah. Like, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, the starting rotation is exceptional. So that's why I still think that New York is going to win the division, but I think it's only going to be like a game that separates New York and Boston.
The one thing I have a knock against Boston, though, is that their bullpen. They had to bring Eovaldi that ate up so many innings in the postseason last year. Their bullpen is obviously one of the weakest spots on the team, and they let go of Craig Kimbrell, which you could argue is the biggest piece in that bullpen, and they haven't added anybody else. And in 2019, where bullpen is so important because the starting pitchers are not throwing 120 pitches anymore. I think that's one of the reasons why they have Boston so low up there. But again, everything else is so good for Boston, and they can still upgrade their bullpen in July and then be back in that conversation again.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They still got time to find another shutdown closer. And I mean, you got to remember, they won the World Series last year despite a leaky bullpen.
Right.
Like, the bullpen last year for the Red Sox was not that great, but they were still able to come through and win because their offense was just on fire, and their starting pitching was just
so
dominant.
Good. Yeah. Let's move on to AL Central. By Pagoda projection, there are only 2 teams that's going to win over 70 games. 70 games. The Cleveland Indians with 97 wins, and the Minnesota Twins with 82. So the Twins are definitely out of the playoffs contention, but they're the only other 500 team other than the Indians.
Yeah, the only team to talk about for the Central is the Cleveland Indians.
Yeah.
Nobody else really matters. Nobody else is really going to jump out.
Right.
The White Sox, they got a lot of young talent on the team, either on the team or on the way. But this is not their year.
Yeah.
Not yet. The Minnesota Twins, they've been mediocre the past few years.
They've been stuck in between. Yeah, are you rebuilding or are you trying to go for it?
Yeah, you've got to either go one way or the other. If you're stuck in this holding phase, you're not gonna do anything. You're just delaying the inevitable rebuild.
Yeah.
The Royals and the Tigers, not worth talking about because we know that they're in full-on rebuild right now. Right. But the Indians, I think maybe 97 wins is a little too high. I think, what did they win, 90 last year?
I think the only reason they can win 97 is because the division is so bad. But that's, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, but that's how it was last year. The division was horrible last season, but Cleveland struggled against just about every other division. Like, they had this pristine division record, but against any other team, it was a struggle for them.
It was very average. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, outside of the division. Not much to talk about there. Indians is the clear number 4 in the AL. Like, you can debate for who's number 1, 2, and 3, but number 4 is definitely the Indians.
Absolutely.
Go to AL West, the worst division. I'm kidding.
You're so wrong.
The Astros are projected to be the only 500 team at AL West with 98 wins. They're gonna be the best team in the AL West, in the AL, according to the Pacoda
best
projections.
team in baseball.
Best in baseball. Rankings. Yeah, actually, the best by 1 game to the Yankees. The Angels are sitting on second place in AL West with 80 wins, 82 losses, so it's below 500. I don't think there's any debate that who's gonna win the division, but I think it's a matter of how much they're gonna win by.
Well, I mean, the thing is like, I'm not concerned with Houston winning the division. They've got too much talent. They've added too much talent. The only issue with them now, with Houston, is starting pitching.
Right.
Because they lost Dallas Keuchel, they lost Charlie Morton. Lance McCullers is out with Tommy John surgery, so it's Justin Verlander, it's Garrett Cole,
and then everybody else.
Then you'll got guys like Brad Peacock, Colin McHugh, Josh James, potentially Forrest Whitley coming up at some point during the summer. But what I'm really surprised about is that they are very, very low on the Oakland Athletics.
Right.
Because
79 wins, 83 losses.
Oakland won 97 games last year. They had the best closer in all of baseball, the best bullpen in all of baseball, as well as the best closer in all of baseball. I'm kind of surprised. I mean, because I don't think they lost a whole lot of pieces.
I think it's
maybe it's just a regression thing, but I'm surprised. I wasn't expecting Oakland to win the division, but I was expecting them to at least be over 500 this year.
Yeah, I think according to segments on the MLB Network, the Pacoda ratings a lot of times don't project the bullpen that well. That's probably why they have the Oakland A's so low. But then also the one thing is their model is basically try if they see if any young core of players can play well until July, and if they are, do everything to trade for veterans like Familia last year. 2014 was trade for John Lester with Cespedes, and then see if how far they can go. And then the next year, even they will try to keep the same core. It will always go back to the A's that people know. I'm not 79 is a little bit too low. I think they're a wild card contender. I think I'll be much more excited for the wild card competition because one of the two between the Yankees or Boston will get a wild card, and then it will be Tampa, maybe the Twins, and then the Angels and Athletics going for the second wild card spot.
Right.
I think that's much more exciting, but. Yeah, AL West, it's not Astros and everybody, I think.
It's not the way that Pacoda is making it out to be. I think it's going to be, the Rangers and the Mariners. I don't think they're going to be any good this year.
Right.
Oakland, I feel like Oakland is going to be the same as they were last year, just kind of like middling, kind of competing for a wild card, but eventually falling out of it. And then I think Oakland is going to regress a little, but I don't see it as this much.
Okay.
But that's what surprised me.
Right. Let's move on to the National League. Okay. Yeah. So this is adjusted after Bryce. No, it's not. No, it's. No, it is because he signed on March 1st. So this is adjusted to Bryce Harper joining the Phillies. They have this is probably the best division definitely the deepest besides the Marlins.
Absolutely.
The Phillies are 89 wins, same as the Nationals. The New York Mets has 87, and then the Atlanta Braves are 84. And let's just not talk about the Marlins. But I think at least 2 playoff teams comes out from this division, maybe 3, depending on the Cardinals and depending on the Cardinals, and maybe the Reds, and definitely the Brewers. So the NL East wild card will be another exciting race, but definitely I think 2 playoff teams comes out from here. They have the Phillies and Nationals going, obviously 89 wins, so they'll be somehow the Phillies are on top of the Nationals, but
tiebreakers.
Yeah, some sort of tiebreakers, but do you think the Nationals are 89 wins good without Bryce Harper?
I'm not sure if they're necessarily 89 wins good without Bryce. They still got a lot of young talent, a lot of good young talent. Juan Soto, Trey Turner, still got Scherzer on the bump. Oof. So they still got a lot of talent. And so that's kind of going back to like the whole contract situation. That's what kind of makes me is he really worth $330 million? Yeah, maybe, but anymore, probably not. Right. But I don't know. I think it's interesting. I definitely believe that the Phillies will be at the top of the division. Okay. I'm pretty big on the Braves. Okay. Like I'm still big on the Braves. I really don't think that, like, I think Washington's gonna compete and they're gonna be in it. Mm-hmm. But I still think that the Braves are just gonna be able to edge them out for second place in that division, get a wild card for sure, and then maybe Washington snags that second wild card. Yeah. I honestly don't see the Mets making the postseason this year. Yeah, I think the Mets on here is a little overrated because they added a couple of pieces, but they're not a complete team. Right. Not close to the Phillies, the Nationals, and the Braves in terms of being a complete team. I think the Braves in terms of because they have so much. And last year they kind of came out of nowhere, and that's probably one of the reasons why they're successful. Mm-hmm. And then this year they'll have expectations on them that may change things a little bit, but Pacoda is really high on analytics, and they don't really care about the psychology side. So still don't know why in terms of on-field production why the Braves will be 8 below the Mets. I'm still big on the Nationals. Maybe they go over the Phillies because I explained it last week. The Phillies, I think they overreacted a little bit in terms of signing all these veterans. Mm-hmm. And then, last year, obviously their hitting was bad, but then their pitching, especially starting pitching, wasn't that great either, and they haven't added anything except for extending Nola. And so, top half of the lineup will be, McCutchen, JT Realmuto, Bryce Harper, and all these all these veterans that you signed from the outside. And then the rest of the team are young players who played with each other since the minor leagues, and then they come up and they're gonna go for it this year. And now you're adding all these veterans that have never played with. And as I don't know, as a young player, I don't know how I feel about that. I just thought they overreacted a little bit, so I don't see them going for 89 wins. Maybe, they probably can win a division. Definitely can be, a playoff team, but I don't know. I probably don't see them winning the division just yet. I think they will. I think they've got enough talent. I think that combination of youth and veterans will really push within the Phillies. That combination will push each other to elevate their game and really get them moving towards the postseason, getting them back there, and playing well. I mean, if you have a lot of, it's one thing to have a bunch of veterans on a team, or it's one thing to have a bunch of young guys, and both can be equally talented. But I think it's that if you need a combination of both, right, in order to be able to actually succeed, because I think with the youth, you don't have enough experience. Right. And then with the veterans, it's just something could go wrong. And right. I just sometimes maybe the veterans don't necessarily like fit together.
Right.
Like if it's just like you pull a bunch of veterans, sign a bunch of veterans, and expect it to mesh.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like with the combination of experience and inexperience, it becomes a teaching environment, and it really helps to elevate everybody's game.
Yeah, and let's move on to. So you have the Phillies, right?
Yes, I have the Phillies.
Move on to AL Central. The Brewers are projected to win 88 games, with the Cardinals looking in at 86. So at this point, the Cardinals would be one game out of that second wildcard spot to the Mets, according to this ranking. And the Reds are at 500 with 81 wins and 81 losses. And then the Cubs are at 79 wins. So I think in terms of balance, is the most balanced team with the last plays only 4 games under 500.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see the Cubs only winning 79 games.
Yeah, I think that's way too low.
Yeah, way too low.
There's too much talent on that team, with Chris Bryant, Javi Baez. I think just those 2 players alone should be worth more than 79 wins.
Right.
As long as they're healthy.
And then Anthony Rizzo too.
Yeah, you can't forget Anthony Rizzo. I mean, as long as like those guys stay healthy, there's no reason that they should be under 500.
Right. I
mean, they won the World Series 3 years ago.
There's no way they'll be below the Reds.
No,
I
don't think. I think the Reds they're working their way back, but I don't think they're going to be quite there this year.
Do you see the Brewers continuing their success from last year? Because again, they kind of came out of nowhere last year.
I think I could see them continuing it. I don't think they're going to be. I kind of agree with the ranking system that with Pacoda right now. 88 wins. It sounds about right.
Okay.
I think they're going to kind of fall back to earth just a little bit. But I still think that they have a very good shot to win the Central Division. The Cardinals are always going to be there, just because they always are. They never seem to go away.
Yeah.
And then I think the Cubs are the other team to watch for in that division. I mean, if you're thinking of basically overlooking the Cubs, you're making a big mistake.
Right. I don't think the Cubs are. You can't, except for the Royals, you can't, because of who the Royals are. You can't really just look over a team that won 3 years ago with a very, very young core.
Right.
The Reds will be respectable this year. They won't be just cakewalk for all the NL Central, and it'll be another fascinating division. I think the NL, it's a little bit like the NBA a couple of years ago, where the East is just very top heavy and the West are balanced. At this point, in MLB, the American League is super top heavy with 3 teams, maybe 4, if the Indians can make it. And then the NL is so balanced, you can't really project a winner in each division.
Right.
Let's move on to the last division with the NL West. I just contradicted myself a little bit, but this could be the division that one can bet on, because the Dodgers are just so good right now. They're projected to win 93 games, and number 2 is Colorado Rockies with 84, and then the D-backs with 82, Padres 79. Even though they added Manny Machado, and San Francisco Giants with 73. I don't think anybody would argue if you put Dodgers on number 1.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question that the Dodgers should be winning the division this year. They've got Corey Seager coming back. Yep. Cody Bellinger. They did get rid of Puig, but I think at this point they can do that without losing too much. They lost Machado, but they lost him to the Padres. But I'm not worried about the Padres being. I don't think they're still. I think they're at least a year away, if not 2.
Right. I was about to say they're about 2 years away.
So, I mean, the Dodgers still have Clayton Kershaw.
Clayton Kershaw's been on decline a little bit in the last couple of years.
Still dominant.
Still, top 3 pitcher out there. I think Max Scherzer took over the best pitcher.
No, yeah, but I mean, he's still
dominating.
Up there,
yeah.
And that's all you need. As long as you have an ace who can go out and you can count on him to put up zeros, maybe one run, or give up one run, I think you'll be fine.
Do you see the Rockies getting a wild card this year?
Colorado is always hard to project, just because you never know what you're going to get from their starting rotation.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Especially because they play in
Coors
Field,
yeah.
And the ultimate hitter's park.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't think that they're going to be in the wild card this year. I just don't see it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, you never know about the pitching rotation. I don't think they ever invest in pitching.
No.
Probably because of where they play. And then if they do make this, if they're gonna win the wild card, they better be the first one, because they just can't. No, most of them can't hit outside of Coors Field. So
yeah, absolutely.
The Giants are at 73. I don't think.
I think that sounds about right.
Honestly, the core that we've seen that they've been performing so well just gotten old, and
I mean that's natural for a team that they won 3 World Series in the span of 5 years.
Right.
And at the time what was a young core, but
right.
Now it's just like, okay, well, it's now time. It's cyclical.
Right.
You have your ups, then eventually you got to come down.
Right.
And that's where the Giants are at now, and I think it's going to continue that way for a couple more years.